Hello, everybody. I wanted to put out a quick video on this documentary, Heal. Many of you have sent it to me, emailed it to me, wanted to talk to me about it. And I want to do that because many of you have seen me write about things that are talked about in this video, things like the nocebo effect, placebo effect, the power of the mind, the power of intention, epigenetics, all these things, not for a year or 2 years, but for the past 10 years. If you look at your very first UTC manual, you will see me talking about these things. And I've also written about it in my most recent book, Chasing 22. Most of these topics are in there as well. But there is a very distinct thing that I'm going to hopefully reconcile here with all of you, because my reaction to the video may surprise some of you. But by the time that I'm done with this video, I assure you, you won't be surprised. You may be surprised at your own self for what you've been led to believe in the video. So pay attention, because it'll be a good exercise in understanding how my brain works here and what goes on behind the scenes, and how long it's taken me to piece some of this stuff together. So first of all, men like Deepak Chopra I've known about for 20 years. Joe Dispenza, who's one of the main guys in the video, I went to his stuff back in 2008, 2009, back when there were 7, 8, 12 people in the room. Talked to him on multiple occasions, one-on-one, and even did multi-day events with him. The reason why I became disenfranchised with men like this is not because of the 99% truth they spew. It's the 1% bullshit that they pull out. And that bullshit is what they use to manipulate people into very bad belief systems. We don't need bad beliefs when there's very good evidence to change your brain, your mind, your body in ways that we actually know via science. Now, I'm not just going to talk here. I'm going to point your attention to a point in the video and watch how this gets broken down. Now, I could take many parts in the video, but if we just take from minute 18 till about minute 32, watch me break this down. And I suggest that you do this because it would be a good exercise for you to watch how this happens and listen to what I say as you go along. At about minute 18, they enter into this world. They start talking about the mistake of looking at the body as a Newtonian in the Newtonian world, that it's a bunch of like a machine with flips and switches and all these things, that it is not a Newtonian object. What it really is spirit. And they use this by saying that we are a quantum thing, right? That the atoms in our body are 99.999% empty space, and therefore we are mostly spirit. Now, let me pause there for a second and get you to reference that get you to understand that the person who's referencing this is named Dr. David Hamilton. He is an organic chemist, everybody. He is not a quantum physicist. You may wonder to yourself, why did they not get a quantum physicist to make this statement? And the reason why is because any quantum physicist who would make that statement in public would probably lose all credibility as a quantum physicist for the rest of his life. They could have easily gotten a quantum physicist to make this statement, but they didn't. However, if you want to hear actual quantum physicists, and not just any quantum physicists, the greatest quantum physicists in the world talk specifically about this topic, meaning an atom being 99.999% empty space, then please go to Sean Carroll's podcast and you can listen to him as a quantum physicist interview other quantum physicists like Carlo Rovelli, Clifford Johnson, David Albert, and the like about this exact topic, and how it is a mistake to talk about an atom as 99.999% empty space. We are talking about an electron cloud. And in these podcasts, each of one are about an hour and a half long, you will get a much better understanding of what a mistake it is to speak of atoms in this manner. However, you may say to yourself, well, what's the point here? Well, I'm going to show you what the point is, because they now take this bad information as the body being 99.999% empty space and therefore mostly spirit, to move into their very next segment where they're talking about to a woman who's talking about having cancer and how she speaks to her dead grandfather or whatever it was, and how it's given meaning to the cancer, and this communication with the dead is now giving her this insight. Ladies and gentlemen, where did we get off the science train here? All of a sudden, do you see how one thing led to the next? This is how cults are formed. But it doesn't stop there. You continue to go in until you hear this guy, Anthony William, get on the screen and start doing this with his hands in front of a woman and going, ooh, you have something going on in your back, L3, L4, is that what's going on? Ladies and gentlemen, this too is a trick. Please investigate Mr. Darren Brown. You can listen to Darren Brown in Sam Harris's podcast, episode number 143, Joe Rogan's podcast, episode 1198. And you can hear Darren Brown, who is one of the greatest mentalists in the world, talk about how he does precisely these tricks. People, these are tricks. All you need to do, you could go to India. You can see swamis in the street performing quote unquote miracles. Ladies and gentlemen, they are not miracles. They are magic tricks. Okay, and this becomes the problem. I am just picking out a 12-minute segment here, everybody, from a very long documentary to show you how we can take very valuable information that actually the video does have, and it gets intertwined and couched in complete nonsense and for bad reasons. Now, I have other issues with men like Joe Dispenza, which I'm not going to get into in this video. However, unlike most people in this video and most people behind YouTube cameras, I personally am happy to make myself available to all of you, right, who pay me for my information. It is my credibility at risk, and all of you to stand in front of this camera and talk, right, and then defend myself at the risk of looking like a heretic or a lunatic. I'm happy to sit in front of all of you and say these things. I will run a live seminar on just this documentary and talk about who the experts are, who to listen to, who will refute this evidence, and why. And this is just a short clip of me doing this, hopefully for your benefit. But ladies and gentlemen, again, most of what's talked about in this video, I myself have talked about, right? You've heard me say it, but the difference is that when I'm saying it and what I'm saying is based in what we know about the nocebo, placebo, epigenetics, and things like this. As a matter of fact, I'm not adding anything extra into it. As soon as you start adding things extra into it, you are now playing on people's motivations and for bad reasons. And it is unethical to do this. Now, if you're more interested in theory of mind and consciousness and things like this, there are other experts that you can listen to. Men like Don Hoffman, Roger Penrose, Sam Harris. These are guys that you can listen to that will give you extra insight into the mind and consciousness and theory of mind in very interesting ways, because there really is, this thing is what's sacred. It is our mind. Our minds are what should be held sacred. I've said this in a previous video. If we're not holding our mind sacred, then we're making a terrible mistake, because wherever you go, your mind goes with you, everybody, and so does your body. So if we're not taking care of it and our body, and if we're not using science-based evidence, right, to support this mind and this body for what works, remember, here's what's even crazier. In the video, they're talking about how 90% of disease starts with what? Stress. What were the first 4 seminars I ran this UTC? They were all based on stress. But more importantly, how did I run them? I ran them based on giving you guys how the brain works, how the body works. Not based on bad evidence, not talking about 99.999% quantum mysticism and you're mostly spirit. No, I'm talking to you about what we actually know, what's actually been demonstrated as far as outcome-based evidence, right? When this documentary is talking about people who have been healed from this or that or the other thing, I wrote a very strong argument in my book, Chasing 22, where we're talking about anomalies. I encourage you read that part where I'm talking about what anomalies are, how they happen, why they happen. They're not as uncommon as you think. And there really is something about how you think and what you do. But again, not to get too philosophical here, but covered in my book, are you even thinking your thoughts? Are you choosing the next thought to come into your mind? No. Thoughts just come. They just come. And this is something to be acknowledged here, because even in the video, there's this strong suggestion about how you think, all these things that matter. Well, again, my book is based on this concept of free will. and I lay out 22 things that's affecting your ability to literally think the way that you think. And it's through no free will of your own. Your thoughts are just coming to you. Now, is there a way for us to create better habits and do better things? Well, what would that take? It would certainly take good company. It would certainly take conversation. But just look at how people behave in general. You can give them all of the evidence in the world about how and why to do something, which I have done for many, many, many years now. And it doesn't matter what you say. It doesn't matter how much evidence you give them. It doesn't even matter if it's just pills to swallow and why, based on the science of their 23andMe test and what their genes are doing. They will still find a reason to not do it. Now, what's the motivation to not do that? You see, there are things operating behind the scenes here, everybody, that we're not thinking much about. And it does have a lot to do with how we think, how the mind operates, how, in fact, the mind, the brain, is wired to survive, not perform. It doesn't want to change. It literally doesn't want to change. It doesn't want to change because the brain is wired to conserve energy. And guess what it takes to change the brain? Energy. It takes energy to change the brain. So does the brain want to change? The answer is no. You are up against this 3-pound thing between your ears that wants sameness. Now, I want you to take all of this information and recognize that when we have conversations, when we're talking, when we're introducing concepts, when you're listening to videos or reading the UTC manual, when we get together in seminars, that these are all opportunities to make real change based on solid evidence. And then recognize what a documentary like Heal is doing. Heal is taking certain evidence, right, intertwining it with nonsense in order to have an outcome that is certainly unethical. Because if you follow the trail of where it leads, and I'm happy to lay this out in a seminar to show you exactly where it leads, the outcome is not good. However, it does line many people's pockets with a lot of money, and you can take that to the bank. Have a good day, everybody.